As governments and corporations around the world move to make their actions and products ever more opaque, a counter-movement is rallying around the opposite flag of openness and transparency. Borrowing its metaphor from the programming creed of open source, this movement is moving beyond the world of bits and bytes to find innovative, collaborative, and open solutions to a whole host of problems confronting our everyday lives. This is the GRTV Backgrounder on Global Research TV. Open source is a concept that derives from the digital world of bits and bytes. Although the term itself originated in a strategy session in Palo Alto in February 1998 on the occasion of the release of the Netscape source code, the idea of opening the source, or allowing the users of a product to examine, modify, copy, and share its source code, predates that meeting, or even the digital age itself. Hobbyists and enthusiasts of various crafts have often shared their designs for products as a point of pride, or pursued the design of new products as a pastime without seeking monetary reward. But in recent decades, spurred by the open source software revolution, this idea has begun to take on a life of its own. So what exactly does open source mean in the computing context?
Millions of people around the world are developing software that anyone can freely download, use, modify, and give away. It's a whole new world, and it's challenging the established software companies. Open source is the future of computing. Open source software exists as a result of the combined efforts of millions of computer programmers, users, and software vendors from around the world. They share their intellectual property freely, and they believe that software should cost nothing and should enrich the lives of users. Open source software is the alternative and biggest challenger to closed source or proprietary software. It generally costs the user nothing. It can be distributed freely to anyone. Download it, use it, modify it, and give it away. It's a whole new world. Open source is the future of computing.
Essentially, open source software is software that allows users to inspect, change, and share the source code of the program. Instead of passive consumers of a program, users become part of a community to which they can choose to contribute if they are capable and inclined. The difference from everyday consumer culture is stark, where shoppers simply line up to buy products that are already in their final form, and it is almost never expected that they will actually try to open or modify their products. The open source concept is one that is well examined in the programming community, and conferences around the world are devoted to discussing the implications of open source software and hardware. One of these conferences is FOSSA, an annual open source conference hosted by INRIA, a public science and technology institute in France dedicated to academic research on computer science and mathematics.
I firstly observe FOSSA. It's a strange conference, very strange conference. It's in computer science development, but also it's about people. And time has gone, and what I liked very much was the openness idea. That's more than an idea, it's a philosophy, I think. And I told Stefan, couldn't we step back or step up and look at that thing on a higher level?
Exactly.
And jump out of the software box, open software box, and just go to other place where openness is applied.
Exactly. And in fact, I had in my mind when I created FOSSA, I wanted to tell a story. Very important for me. So, but the story I knew where I wanted to go more or less. But then how to convince INRIA and all these kind of people that you should trust me and then let's go to this path. No, the first year we did little steps. So first of all, at the first FOSSA conferences, we just did open source, different open source topics, but general ones, just to put everybody at the same level. The second year, we introduced really details in the main important topics of open source, which is community management, business model, governance, etc. Okay, and then after, we decided to say, okay, now everybody's got the same level of understanding. They know what is wrong, what is right, what is... and let's now open. So let's go up, as he said. We have and that's it. And so every year we added a new topic, and sometimes we were even outside open source, totally outside open source, nothing to do with code.
FOSSA is not your average open source software conference, however. With a vision of exploring the borders of open source culture and the meaning of openness itself, the FOSSA conference explores different, non-computer-oriented implementations of the open source concept each year. This year's conference was held late last month in Lille, France, and included presentations on a variety of innovative projects and ideas, both in the digital world and in the real world. One of those presentations involved OS Vehicle, a project for an open source vehicle that has so far designed a road-legal car chassis that is downloadable for free from osvehicle.com and which can be assembled from a kit in under 1 hour.
Right, OS Vehicle is a project that is aiming at creating new open source and eco-friendly vehicles. The basic idea is creating what we call Tabby right now, an open source chassis on which anyone can build their own vehicle on top of it. We already actually have an urban Tabby, which is a kit you can put on top of it that lets you create a city car really easily. All you have to do is add your own design on top of it. So we're making it easier and easier for any entrepreneur or even a maker or a designer to just download the plans, find out if he's actually capable of making a vehicle on top of that, if Tabby can adapt to his or her type of application. And Tabby is very versatile in doing that because it can be made higher, lower, longer, shorter, with 2 seats or 4 seats, all from the same universal chassis. And then at that point, order the kits or build them himself because it's open source, and just assemble it. And in less than 1 hour, you can assemble Tabby and have a functioning vehicle right away.
Also at the conference, open source evangelist Jan Wildeboer presented a lecture on open source identity.
But identity means that we need to be able to prove who we are. And this is typically done with a passport, but it's not the only thing you can do. Now, once you have identity, you can have some fun with that. And that's a little bit subversive. And why would you want to have fun with that? Well, first of all, when these companies and countries and secret services are making profiles about what I do, I want to make sure that my profile does not reflect my reality. I want to give them some information that cannot be possible, so that my profile falls out of their normal filter stuff and they say this is a useless profile, and then they will not track me that much.
And James Corbett delivered a keynote address on open source journalism. I think taking our cue from the open source software paradigm, obviously open source journalism is journalism that lets you look under the hood. It lets you see the source code of the journalism, and in the case of journalism, what is the source code? It's data. It could be statements that are made by officials. It could be laws that are being passed. It could be what have you, whatever it is, video that's been made available. Someone tweets out a picture of something, that might be part of the data. But journalism that lets you see all of that underlying data that was used to compile the report is obviously, that's a contributory factor to what we can think of as open source journalism. And the other part of this, of course, the permissive licenses that are used in a lot of online endeavors these days can also, of course, be applied to, I think, open source journalism. Journalism that users can remix, reuse, republish, and repurpose is, I think, an important part of what is the open source journalism revolution. The idea of openness is one that goes beyond the boundaries of software code and is beginning to transform the way people examine their relationship to the products that they use, the services they perform, and the people that they interact with.
In fact, it's what makes it open. It's the fact that you can transfer knowledge, you can pass knowledge to anyone quite freely. And when I say knowledge, it can be everything. So knowledge can be an object, can be a digital number, or it can be what you have in your mind, but it can be as well an object and so on. So it's really that, I guess what connects open is that I will facilitate the transfer of knowledge. It's really, that's the main core. Then as well, I would say that openness means that I don't judge you, I trust you. At the beginning, I trust you, I listen to you, and then after I will see if you keep my trust, I mean, if I keep the trust with you. So first of all, I give the trust. I give it, no problem. After, when we will act, we will see. But really it's important. So For me, it's facilitating the transfer of knowledge between us, and the fact that you trust and you can check what the other says.
Openness as a concept is one that has revolutionary potential, not just in the way that products are manufactured or distributed, but in the way that it transforms people from passive consumers into active members of a community. And in an age where our lives are increasingly dominated by the opaque actions and pronouncements of central bankers, the fiat decrees of politicians in far-off locales, and the mass-produced consumer fodder of elite megacorporations, this change in perception brings with it the possibility of a true change in the global economy and in human understanding itself. For more on this story and other breaking news and current events, please go to globalresearch.ca. For more research and analysis by James Corbett, please go to corbettreport.com. The Center for Research on Globalization depends on your support. To purchase a book or DVD, or to make a donation, please visit globalresearch.ca today. Of the Netscape source code, the idea of opening the source, or allowing the users of a product to examine, modify, copy, and share its source code, predates that meeting, or even the digital age itself. Hobbyists and enthusiasts of various crafts have often shared their designs for products as a point of pride, or pursued the design of new products as a pastime without seeking monetary reward. But in recent decades, spurred by the open source software revolution, as governments and corporations around the world move to make their actions and products ever more opaque, a counter-movement is rallying around the opposite flag of openness and transparency. Borrowing its metaphor from the programming creed of open source, this movement is moving beyond the world of bits. This idea has begun to take on a life of its own. So what exactly does open source mean in the computing context?
Millions of people around the world are developing software that anyone can freely download, use, modify, and give away. It's a whole new world, and it's challenging the established software companies. Open source is the future of computing.
And bytes to find innovative, collaborative, and open solutions to a whole host of problems confronting our everyday lives. This is the GRTV Backgrounder on Global Research TV. Open source is a concept that derives from the digital world of bits and bytes. Although the term itself originated in a strategy session in Palo Alto in February 1998 on the occasion of the release,
Open source software exists as a result of the combined efforts of millions of computer programmers, users, and software vendors from around the world. They share their intellectual property freely, and they believe that software should cost nothing and should enrich the lives of users. Open source software is the alternative and biggest challenger to closed source or proprietary software. It generally costs the user nothing.